there was all the, I forget what they called it, where they printed more money. They had
Oh,
another
yeah.
term for it.
Yeah.
But that was going on.
So from a lot of people that come on these podcasts talk about pivotal moments in their life, usually through pain or hurt or accidents or ill health or things like businesses going under, that has a kind of turning point for them in what they're doing, what they're trying to achieve. Now, we were talking before the podcast started about our attitude towards money and cash. So a business failing is huge to some people, and it's okay, that's what happens to others. You know, there's different levels. So on the scale of 1 to 10, where did you sit in that space as that was happening?
About 3. It wasn't that important. It was such a shame that the jobs went. But at the end of the day, it's only money. And when you run a business, you have quite a lot of money flowing past you. And sometimes you manage to tap some off and take it home. So, you know, just for a season, I didn't take so much home. It wasn't a great problem.
It didn't. So you didn't have to go and let's put a house on the sale on the market and put it up for sale.
We had to. We borrowed against the value of the house to pay off the debts, and then paid that off bit at a time. But no, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't as big as having to sell the house, I'm pleased to say.
So you didn't have to lose any sleep over it?
Might have worried a few nights away, but nothing, absolutely nothing pivotal in that.
So let's just talk briefly about CopyZone. What's your main product that you offer to people? What are you proud of in your company that you can say, we are brilliant at that? Because quick advert, go for it.
Brilliant at design. Jane Marsden, our designer, is fabulous.
That's good.
Now, Jane is an enigma. She's a country girl. She has horses. She doesn't ride them now, but she looks after her horses because they're her friends. She had a riding accident and has a bad back and hip.
Oh dear.
But every day she's mucking out and tending her horses. Then she comes into work and applies herself to a Mac. Now, you don't imagine a country girl on a Mac, but Jane's been designing since before Macs.
Right.
And so if she's working on a flyer or an advert or something or a book, she'll sketch it and then she'll apply the sketch to the computer. Whereas a lot of people today start on the screen.
Yes.
But she's old school.
Yeah.
And so she would know back in the days of handwork and liner type for setting your text and pasting it up a line at a time and all that sort of thing. Anyway, so typography, design, we're brilliant. We are good. And we're nice to people as well, because, we'll get the work proofed and checked. And if we've generated an error and we print it, but you haven't noticed in the proofing, well, we'll do a value judgment. Do we want to keep you as a customer? Yes, of course we do. So we'll do it again. And that happens a few times. It is depressing when it happens. But but we'll do it again, because the relationship is far more important than the cash for that job. And we wouldn't demand cash from someone who was dissatisfied with their job.
No, it doesn't work, does it? It leaves nasty taste, doesn't it? But
and
do you know what? Sorry.
Go on, I'm going to reflect on relationships here, because they are the essence of business. First of all, my relationship with the staff, because they don't actually work for their wages, they work for me and the satisfaction of the job.
Lovely.
And the relationship with the customers, they'll forgive you if you make a mistake, or if something's not quite there and you say, oh my goodness, and you can sympathise or empathise with them, and they'll see the difficulty and they'll say, well, look, it's okay, we can work with it. And that comes out of relationship.
Yeah.
Because if everything was judged on a finite standard, it would be much more difficult. So we don't swing it on relationships. We don't stretch them too far. But it's the essence of business.
Indeed. And I think I liken your industry to like the IT industry, in that people can get very angry very quickly when things don't go the way they want it to go. And I was talking to Nuno Soares the other day from Clear IT, and I was saying, every time you pick the phone up, it must be somebody that's really cross.
Oh, yes.
Because it's all gone wrong and it's not working. So it's the same for you when you've sent them the proof and they've looked at it, like briefly, and gone, yes, that's fine. And then when you
Yes,
give them the
indeed.
actual thing, they're like, but there's a spelling mistake on the 29th line
Yeah.
and you've forgotten the comma there.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yes.
and they don't think, oh, I didn't look at the proof. They think you've made a mistake. And
Yes,
it's this,
indeed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
so
very
you have to
difficult.
put up with these raft of emotions that people have
Yes.
to.
Yes. Now the other thing is that because printing is so much cheaper, we have to do so many more jobs to make the profit we need to pay the staff. And so we have that transaction doubled, I suppose, on what it was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And so that emotional transaction with the customers, we've got twice as much now.
Yeah. And I would imagine
Ah,
you've got some long-term customers as well
oh,
that wouldn't dream
some.
of going anywhere else. Yeah.
They wouldn't dream of going anywhere else, and we would be upset if they did go because
Yeah.
the relationship's there.
Yeah.
And they say, yeah, we always get what we want here. It's lovely, and that's important.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
if I'm cold calling people for work, and they say, oh no, I've got a printer. We've been with him for years. I'll always respectfully say, that's fine. I said, I love it when my customers say that to other people.
Yeah.
I say, I'll
Yeah.
leave you alone.
Oh,
But if anything goes wrong, we're always here.
yeah. Well, you've got plan
And
B then, haven't you? They've got some.
you've got to leave it with a nice warm feeling.
Oh, definitely, definitely. We do
Yeah.
that a lot with our stationery company as well. You know,
Yeah.
if somebody's got loyalty, then that's like good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, interestingly, let's reflect on insurance companies who rip people off on loyalty. It's in the news, or it was on the news
Yeah.
yesterday, because your premium will go up and up, but a new customer will get a much lower premium for the same product. Very naughty. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
But so design, flipping fabulous.
Lovely.
And I know Jane will do design that pleases people and I can relax. Over the years, I've had many people working as designers for me. And we've struggled because design can have an emotional attachment
Yeah.
to the designer. And
Mm.
if a customer says, well, I don't like that, I've seen designers be personally offended.
Oh, yeah.
But Jane
It's
will
so
go, yeah, all
subjective.
right, let's do something else then. What do you want? And she does another design, which is so important.
Yeah, definitely. Oh,
So
that's good.
that's the design side of it. We've got there on that.
Brilliant.
The print, we do a lot of magazines. So we are the centre for printing church magazines. I think on Village magazine, I think we do
Yeah.
43 different types now each month. So
Brilliant.
2 weeks of the month, we are stupidly busy, and we're in busy week at the moment, and
Right.
next week's going to be busy as well.
Oh, gosh.
So we bought some new expanded equipment so that we can run faster to make the booklets. So your little Villager magazine, Stansted Link, your church link and all that, we've got loads of them. And
So
they come...
interestingly, there was an article, where did I see it? I can't remember, I saw it now, about, it was connected to the Harlow Star that is no longer, the newspaper that is no
Yes.
longer, and how a lot of people prefer to read their local news online.
No, I don't believe
Well,
that.
I like this. I like to,
Yes. Yeah,
and oh,
that's
that's
it.
interesting. Cut that bit out. So,
Yeah.
do you think, as a printer, that these local magazines are still in vogue and not people reading them, or do you think it is, slowly moving away to the digital?
Well, I've got two feelings on this. We print a lot of church magazines, and I always encourage the church editors, because I say in villages and towns, they're an important communication. Number one, for the church to get their message out.
Yeah.
Number two, for the plumber and the baker and the computer repair man and all the local services. If you're in a local village or church magazine, you're a reliable local person. You're trusted because you're in not a down market publication, but you're not in a big glossy publication. You're a local one. That counts for a lot.
Yeah.
And so they're very important in that respect.
Especially when you've been in it for month on month on month on month. There are some people that are always in it. So you think, well, if he was that bad,
he wouldn't come back.
Yeah, people would be making comments and not referring
and
you.
So the adverts in there, they're not just there to promote the magazine. They're there because they bring people work.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. They're a little bit of a bit of relationship cement in a community, a small community. However, having said that, the church I belong to abandoned didn't ever have a magazine. We have e-news, and it comes out, and it's
Do
not
you
the
read
same.
it?
I glance at the headlines,
Yeah.
especially if I've put something in there.
Yes.
But I don't think it sticks as well as a magazine.
I think it's doing the rounds, isn't it? Because
I think it's coming back round.
Yeah, a few years ago, everyone was saying, "Oh, there's not going to be any bookshops in the country," and now there are more independent bookshops than ever before. And I don't know about you, but I love going into a bookshop and there's an armchair. Quick, let me have a look at what I'm going to buy, and I'll sit there for 5 minutes looking through before I choose to purchase it.
I went to the ultimate a second-hand bookshop in Alnwick, up in Northumberland. It's a famous one, and it's an old railway station, crammed full of books. It's got armchairs and coal fires and
lovely
little miniature railways running round. And
you were in your element.
I could have stayed there. Yeah. But yes, I mean, I love books. And it's useful being a printer, really. But also we do short-run book printing for people. Yeah. And more. Somebody's collecting their run of 500 poetry books today. Lovely. Well, let's give David Arkle a quick boost. There we are. Nice. And it's called Divine Loves. He's a teacher at Bishop Stortford College. And
is that one of Jane's designs? Did Jane do the front cover?
Sorry, I just dropped my earphone.
Did Jane do the front cover?
No, he supplied that. Oh, okay. That was his photo. He wanted that. Yeah.
Lovely.
But he's collecting them today. And that's a very good trade for us, printing books.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else do we do at work? We design, we do books, we do all sorts of stationery and brochures and colour brochures and folders and business cards and anything you want where there's ink on paper, we do it. We also do signage now and canvas banners for events or what do they call them? Dropped out of my mind, large rigid signs that you would put on the outside of the building. Fomex. Yes,
so you're obviously very good at your copy zone printing and designing and all the rest of it, which is fantastic. And it sounds like it's coming through to me that you love it. But I know there are other things in your life that you're passionate about. And one of the things that you did on your very first time at the front of the room at BeCollaboration was a genius slot around talking about how you found your faith. Yeah. So do you want to just briefly give us that story for those people that haven't heard about it?
It applies to business very well, because the only reason I'm in business is because I became a Christian, which sounds bizarre. But I was, character-wise, I was a cowardly young man and was more concerned about what people thought of me and didn't have any integrity, if you like, in my character. I made a nominal commitment and became a churchgoer. But then in 1982, I jumped in with both feet and made a complete commitment to Jesus. And my life turned upside down. You talk about pivotal moments. That was a pivotal moment. I became the person that I always wanted to be. Wow. I was in good relationship with God. I had the courage to be the person I wanted to be. And it was that incident, that life-changing incident. The Bible talks about being born again. I'm afraid the Americans have messed up that phrase. The born again Christian, it doesn't go down too well. Yeah. But it literally was life starting all over again. I couldn't quite believe it. And I wouldn't say I've been walking on air ever since, but my life has been changed ever since. And so it gave me the courage to be the person I wanted to be. And there's a lot wrapped up in me, and I've been able to express it and fulfill it.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Business.
In today's world with social media, a lot of people are suffering mental ill health because they're worried about what people think of them.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you said that you didn't have the courage because you were always worried about what people were thinking about you, and you had to kind of be a certain way and act a certain way to fit in. And I think today in society, we are ostracized and kept separate on so many different ways, and social media being one of them, that everyone's finger pointing to somebody else. But actually what we crave more than anything is a strong, welcoming, beautiful community where you can feel safe, where you can feel loved. where you can feel empowered.
Absolutely.
So how old were
Well,
you when you...
Let me just go back on that. The community is vitally important, but
Yeah.
because I